My whole life, I have known no wise people who did not read all the time. None, zero. You'll be amazed at how much Warren reads and how much I read. Couple of legs sticking out. This is the great Charlie Munger writing about his reading habit in his legendary book, Poor Charlie's Almanac. And I dare say, as he's left for the heavenly abodes, his teachings, his wisdom, his wit, and his learnings, I dare say again, will live with us through generations and generations to come. And I think it's only apt that because he was such a prolific investor and reader, that we have somebody out here in India who kind of epitomizes the same uh, tenets of investing and reading as Charlie Munger did with us on the show today, the great Ramesh Damani. Ramesh, thank you so much for being with us. And we're making a habit of asking you to come and talk to us about great investors who are passing away, Ramesh. Indeed, unfortunate for the world.
It's Thank you, Neeraj, first for having me. It's a great honor to paying tribute to someone who has such an intellectual influence upon my own investment process. A lot of people, of course, have hero worship Charlie Munger like I did, and in fact, three generations of the Manis have done. But Charlie Munger's hero was a guy called Benjamin Franklin, diplomat, author, ambassador. And Benjamin Franklin once said that a life well lived is a better than one that is well said. A life well done is better than a life well said. And Munger not only lived a life well, he said a life well, but lived a life well also. So this is a great tribute to a great man, as you said. And I think his influence will be felt not only in terms of investing, but in terms of philosophy, logic, architecture, corporate governance for many, many generations beyond this one.
Yeah. Ramesh, you would have had countless incidents wherein Charlie Munger would have impacted your habits, your thinking. I don't know if you got a chance to meet him. Unfortunately, I haven't had that. But tell us a bit about some of your favorite moments, whether influenced with him, by him, or seeing him, or meeting him, as the case may be.
Well, I had the good fortune to meet him once in a public setting at the Berkshire AGM. I happened to be present, and he was autographing, memorabilia for people who had visited, especially international visitors, which I was. So I have been in his presence. I have listened to his AGM speeches, sometimes live on television, sometimes by being there. So it's been extraordinary. They say about great teachers that you never know where the influence stops because it affects eternity. And the same thing with Charlie Munger. I think the kind of philosophies that he resonated will resonate for long periods of time. And some of the things he taught us is that rather than buy a good business or a fair business at a good price, you buy a great business at a fair price. And that kind of extended the envelope from the intellectual village we call Graham Doddswell. I think Buffett and Munger, and I think Munger essentially pushed Buffett to invest in high quality businesses by paying a higher price. You know what Graham and Dodd did before that was you find out the liquidation value of a business and pay a price below that. What he said that we don't want a liquidating business, we want a great business, and you're willing to pay a fair price for that because compounding over a long term will make a huge difference to the value of that business. And the second concept which he had was called that great investments come sometimes 3 times, 4 times in a lifespan. And when you have a great business idea, you need to back up the truck and buy. So those are some of the very important concepts that Munger taught us. Neeraj, if I can just add, the one thing that Munger told very clearly about investing was the importance of inverting. He used the great mathematician Jacobi and say, invert a problem. You can't solve a problem linearly. Invert the problem, look back. So often when you have a problem that doesn't seem solvable, I think it helps to look backward and try and solve the problem. And I often tend to use that in my own investing.
Wow. Okay, Ramesh, legendary investors like yourself as well would have their own courses charted out, but very often everybody would take inspiration from one or two very strong acts of some other investors as well. Would inverting be that facet of investing that Munger so prophesied that you had taken, or is there something else also that stands out for you which you would have imbibed in addition to everything that you did, you would have imbibed in your processes as well?
You flatter me by even saying me a legendary investor. I'm not. But Neeraj, I think the thing they've taken from Buffett, Munger, and a few other people is compounding. That to understand that, requires some thought process. You all understand compounding in a desk or in a calculator, but to understand the impact of what compounding means over a lifetime of an investment is extraordinary. Something even at 16, 17% compounded over 30, 50 years gives you a very favorable outcome. So I think I learned a lot of that from Buffett and Munger, who managed to keep businesses like Coke the Care for almost 30 years unchanged, Seas Candy for 50 years unchanged, because they realized the virtue of a great business and the kind of returns it generates over periods of time. And just to give you some more perspective, a lot of people feel that, well, these don't only to a class of investors. There's an institute in India called Dakshina Institute in Pune, which is run by Munish Pograi, which has a Charles T. Munger dining hall. So his wisdom, his popularity, his anecdotes, his investment thesis is now spreading quite far and wide, even in smaller cities like Pune.
Yeah, and that's quite something. And I know for you, for Monish, for Guy Spear, and a bunch of other people that I know who idolized in some fashion Buffett and Munger, this would be even more a tragic loss than some others. I mean, first amongst equals, if you will, in terms of the mourning. Would you, it will never be the same, obviously, Ramesh, but what happens to the legendary Berkshire Hathaway annual general meetings now? I mean, there will be a void that will never get filled, despite the fact that if it happens again this year, which I hope it will, and the great Warren Buffett would still be there, but the absence and the void of Charlie Munger will always be felt.
Oh, it's extraordinary. I mean, to just imagine him not sitting next to Warren and making his, very pointed commentary. Extraordinary. I think it'll take almost a generation of investors to forget the presence of Munger, which unfortunately we'll have to get used to. But the good part is that, his work through his writings, his legacy will live on. And I'll just share an anecdote which I shared earlier. Warren and Charlie Munger had one of the famous partnerships, and Warren has often said that in 40 years, he's had some disagreements, but never major disagreements with Charlie Munger. But the one incident that investors do remember is that in the mid-80s, Warren Buffett, who had fairly become wealthy by that time, bought a plane for himself. And Charlie Munger called the buying of the plane indefensible. So Warren Buffett, in a twist of humor, named the plane the Indefensible. So that was one of the few times. Munger, of course, continued travel economy. He was happy travel economy. Even when he was in the late 90s, he would come to Omaha, sitting in economy class with a book to read, not bothering, not even flying business class. Extraordinary frugality of life. He always maintained, Munger, that money is what Benjamin Franklin said is not going to make you happy, because the more you have it, the more you want it. And he was fairly modest considering his intellectual accomplishments. Warren Buffett is worth about 100 billion. He was worth about a few $1 billion. He gave a lot of that away. So he lived an extraordinarily frugal life and a great example, a great role model. You might find this hard to believe, but my grandson Veer, who's all of 6, also has heard about Charlie Munger, and we have a statue, as you can see, behind me in my office. So we pay a tribute to him all the time and reflect on his learnings, Neeraj.
Yeah, most certainly an extraordinary loss. Ramesh, I know, you will run out of words. Or maybe you won't ever run out of words, but I understand there is paucity of time. I would just like to end this, Ramesh, by asking you one thing, and I would end it with a quote that, for me, is something that from Charlie Munger's side is a bit of message for life as well as investing. In one of the Berkshire Hathaway annual general meetings, he had said that I think life is a whole series of opportunity costs. You got to marry the best person who is convenient to find, who will have you. Investment is much the same sort of a process. I think both you and I are lucky, Ramesh, in that we found such a person. But there is a message out here about investing in life that nobody else but Charlie Munger could have given.
Absolutely. The thing about Charlie is that it's not just about investing, it's about how you live your life. He was basically a proponent of the philosophy of Stoicism, that you take whatever you get in life and don't complain about it. You have to deal with whatever happens. If you happen to be sick or you happen to be a child who's sick, you deal with the problem. He says, God shouldn't have given me so many blessings. So why should I complain of the few things that have gone wrong in my life? And he moved on, and he dealt with the early divorce in his life. He dealt with the children's illness out there. And the one thing that I might add just for fun is that he was a practicing lawyer in California when Buffett and Munger bumped into each other. And Buffett kept prodding him to enter the investment business, saying that it was a worthier canvas than just law. for him, where he could only build per hour, whereas investing would compound money over time. I think finally agreed and became vice chairman of Berkshire and hung up his hat as from the law firm that still runs actually in LA. But I think it was Warren Buffett who helped him push him into investing. But it was Charlie Munger who told Warren Buffett and pushed the envelope, saying that Warren and to other investors that it's better to buy a great business at a fair price rather than to buy a fair business at a great price. So I think it's a sad day, but it's been a great life. And as I said, it's not only well done, well said, but well lived.
Most certainly. Ramesh, before we end, one of your favorite books of either, quoted by Charlie or written by Charlie, for me, it's always a toss-up between Poor Charlie's Almanac or All I Want to Know Is Where I'm Going to Die so that I don't go there. What is your favorite?
Those two are good. I'd recommend a third book in there. It's called Damn Right by Janet Lowe. She was a writer at Fortune. It was one of the earliest books about war, about Charlie, which I read. Great read even then. But of course, the gold standard remains Charlie's Almanac, which has a compilation. We've actually met Peter Coffin, the editor of that book. And it's a compilation of all the great speeches, great works, great anecdotes by Charlie. Highly recommended for the serious investor.
Great. Ramesh, thank you. And I mean it when I say it's great to have a legendary investor in Ramesh Damani paying a fitting tribute, on at least for us out here on our platform, to the great Charlie Munger. A life well lived indeed. Thank you so much, Ramesh, for joining in today.
Charlie Munger, RIP, we will miss you, my friend.
Most certainly. Ramesh, thank you for doing this. And viewers, thank you for tuning in.